Hey guys, it's David from Gigi's Fabric Shop and Juki Junkies, and today we're going to be showing you how to set up the Juki 8700 industrial machine. One thing to note, we're going to need a few tools to set this machine up: a flathead, a Phillips head, a small hammer. I like this hammer because it's nice and narrow, and you'll see why we like a narrow hammer and later on in the video. A crescent wrench, a pair of scissors or a knife, and a Phillips head screwdriver, and maybe a drill bit if you have one. When you order from JukiJunkies.com, our tables do come fully assembled with the motor mounted and everything ready to go. All we really have to do is open up the head box and install it into the table. So let's go ahead and start doing that. First thing first, we're gonna go ahead and open up this 8700 box. Once the tape is cut, there's gonna be these little metal staples. I'm super used to dealing with them, so I usually just pull up and just, well, go like that pretty much. If you prefer not to do that to your box, you can just grab a pair of metal snips and cut those staples out. Also a good idea to take these staples out when you're done because they can poke or scratch you when you're dealing with the box later on. So I like to just remove them, and we'll take out the thread stand and assemble this first. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take out all the parts to this thread stand, and you're just gonna install it like so. Putting it in right there. Putting washer, then lock washer, then nut, and screwing those down. So you're just going to do that with the first one and the second one. Finger, get it real nice and tight, and then you can pull off the spool cap and go ahead and put this little plate on, just like that. And then the felt pad goes on, and then the spool cap right on top. Go ahead and repeat that process for this hole right here, so we have two. So now that we have the spool holders all installed, we're going to go ahead and assemble this thread stand. So I like to just grab this pole here with the nut and the washer and the two rubber washers, and you're pretty much just going to do washer, rubber washer, and then it's going to go ahead and move over here, and we're going to insert this into the table like so, and then we're going to do rubber washer, washer, nut, and get it really tight just with your hand. So I like to get that nice and tight so it doesn't move around. So that's good to go. And now we're going to go ahead and put our thread stand right here. And we can use our Phillips head on the drill. Make sure it's about an inch below that pole because you'll see why here in a second. Thread guide up on the second pole. And then you're going to put this clamp here and the second pole, and then the thread guide up here, and then we can go ahead and screw down all three of these in the positions that we desire. Thread stand is all done, and you can kind of just move it back and forth out of the way if you need it to be out of the way. And now let's move on to installing the oil pan. Oil pan. Okay, so now we're just going to put one of the gray rubber corner pieces, I guess you could call them, spacers, mounts, in each of these corners, and then one of the black ones, black rubber spacers in these corners here. And we're going to go ahead and put a nail in each one. And you can either put in these gray spacers, you can put them going into the side wall or on the bottom, whichever you prefer. We're going to go ahead and install these little rubber hinges. You can take the metal piece out, install the rubber part, and then put two nails in each of these. It's kind of a pain sometimes to get the nail all the way down, so what I like to do is use this narrow hammer or use a little metal rod, and you can hammer on top of that. And you can stick the nail into the rubber piece with your finger, and that makes it a little bit easier to hold it into place versus trying to use your hand while you're hammering. You do want to make sure those nails are flush with the rubber piece. So now that we have all of the rubber grommets and hinge rubber pieces, spacers in place, we can go ahead and drop in that oil pan, just like so. Seat's nice. So now we can install this little knee lift lever, and we can start getting ready to install the machine and the bobbin winder. But you can go ahead and put this little plastic rod. This just pretty much supports the machine when it leans back, and hammering this in, you just have to be careful that you don't crack it. So I like to use a piece of cardboard and use the hammer to tap on top of the cardboard. And that's good enough. So now we can go ahead and take the machine out of the box. The machine's heavy and it's kind of oily too, so make sure that you have an extra hand if you need one. Pick up by the throat of the machine like that, and you can set it right here for a second. This is the wheel cover, hand wheel cover. Pick it up like that, and go ahead and just drop it into the tabletop. And like I said, it's kind of heavy, but it's doable with one person. So now that we have the machine in the tabletop, we can go ahead and install the metal hinges on the back of the machine. I just push the machine forward a little bit and voila, installed. Same thing with this side, push it forward a little bit, voila, we're installed. So now we can go ahead and put the hand wheel on the machine. Make sure that you find the flat side of this hand wheel shaft right here. So there's one flat side right there. Then you're going to go ahead and locate the hand wheel and the two black set screws that should be in an accessory bag that is located with the needles. You're just going to drop one of those black screws into the first hole that is located right next to that little arrow right there. You can kind of see an arrow here, and above it is the first hole. You're just going to want to make sure that that screw is screwing down onto that flat side. You can kind of see it from the top, and also make sure that hand wheel is flush with this shaft right here. So you can see that's too far forward. There's a little lip, and this is flush. So we want it to be nice and flush. And now we can go ahead and screw down our set screw. And they did provide you with a flathead that fits here. You're going to want the small flathead. The other ones just don't fit very well. So screw that down until it's nice and snug. Here we go. And now we can go ahead and rotate the hand wheel and screw on the next set screw. And if you have a flathead that's longer and narrower, you might be able to get a little bit more leverage. So I'm actually going to go find one so I can make sure those set screws are on there nice and tight. So now that we have the hand wheel on the machine, we can go ahead and tilt the machine back and install the belt. Tilt it all the way back. Pull this belt up from inside of the table, coming from that motor, wrapping it around that hand wheel, and slowly tilting the machine forward. You'll know if it's tight if you don't have much play in the belt. So here we have like maybe a 1/4 inch of play. You kind of want about 1 inch of play. So we'll go ahead and loosen up that belt. So to loosen up that belt, this motor has a adjustment right here. Pretty much you're going to loosen up this nut and tighten up this nut, allowing that motor to tilt up, loosening the belt. If you needed to tighten it, you would do opposite. You would loosen the bottom screw and tighten the top screw. So we'll go ahead and make those small adjustments real quick. Okay, so now that we made that adjustment, we just went ahead and loosened up this belt, so now it has about 1 inch of play. So now it's not too tight, that's just about right. Remember, small adjustments down there, you don't need to do anything drastic. Loosen it a few rotations, then tighten the bottom, and then double check it before you continue to make adjustments. So now we're gonna go ahead and get the bobbin winder installed. So to install this, it's pretty simple. Pretty much just gonna line this hand wheel up with the belt, so that way when you push this forward, it's gonna come in contact with that belt, allowing it to wind you a bobbin, because your bobbin's going on right here. So what we'll do is pretty much find that spot where this is engaged, this is disengaged. You don't want it to touch that belt when it's disengaged. So you want to put it in a spot where it's about 1/2 inch, maybe 1 inch away from that belt. So that way when you push it forward, it does come in contact, allowing you to wind that bobbin, and when you push it back, it does not come in contact. We're going to go ahead and put our 2 screws right into these little slots for the screws, and the best way to do that is to pre-drill those holes. Today I don't have my drill set with me because I didn't bring my tools to work, and we don't have one, so we're going to go ahead and install it without drilling the holes, which is fine. It's just a little bit cleaner if you can drill them out first. So let's go ahead and do that. Then put a screw in the center of these slots, because you can always loosen them and adjust this if you needed so in the future. So if you put it in the center, you have an equal amount of play either forward or backwards. Blow out all that excess dust. Adjust that hand wheel in the front a little bit, making sure it's nice and level with that belt. It's not cockeyed. All right, so now we're good to go. So now when we engage the belt engage it, it touches the belt nice and tightly, and it's going to wind us a bobbin. And then when we disengage, it's not touching the belt. Okay? And then if we need to make adjustments in the future, we can loosen this screw and slide this forward and backwards as needed. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and take out all these little extra accessories for the cover, the hand wheel cover. And we're going to go ahead and screw in this extension right into this hole down here. And now we can go ahead and put our plastic cover over this hand wheel, like so. Kind of just maneuver it in there and start lining up all the screw holes and screwing them in. This is just a little screw hole cover, just snaps into right there. And now we're going to put the last little belt cover. It goes right underneath here, like so. There we go. And you want to make sure it's not rubbing against that belt when you install it. That way you don't have a noisy machine. Put it right about there. And you're going to go ahead and just screw in one screw on this side and one screw on the other side with that little washer on top. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and install that knee lifter. If you need to make any adjustments to this, you can just loosen this bolt right here. But I have mine adjusted where I need it to be. And then this little knee lifter pad's just going to go right through that hole. And you can tighten down this bolt right here and make adjustments as needed. If you need to make any adjustments, there's one bolt here on that pad, one bolt here, and one bolt there. And you can adjust it to your likings and then tighten it down. Make sure that it's super tight, because if it's not super tight, then you'll be wondering why your foot's not lifting up, and it's just because your bolts aren't tight enough. So it should be tight enough to lift up that foot. And to clarify the adjustments a little bit more, if you loosen this bolt here, you can adjust this pad in whichever direction you'd like. If you loosen this bolt here, you can adjust this knee lift bar farther that way or this way. And if you loosen this bolt here, you can adjust it where your knee lifter could be out here or closer to you, depending on your size. Now that we have pretty much everything installed on the machine, one other thing I forgot to tell you is this little thread guide will go right up here. We're going to go ahead and tilt back the machine and add oil to it, so now that we can run it. So we're just going to go ahead and tilt that machine back. And in this oil pan, you'll see that there's a high and a low mark. There's low and high. We're just going to go ahead and add oil in there so that it's at the high mark, pretty much. So just go ahead and dump it in there until we get to the high. So now that we're at the high, we can go ahead and stop. And we're ready to start running this machine. So what I like to do, since it's a new machine, it needs some oil, we're going to go ahead and tilt it forward and lift the foot up and run the machine for a few seconds at full rotations, unthreaded, and it'll allow the oil to run throughout the machine. You'll actually see oil splashing in this top window, and that's how you know that the oil is being pumped and ran throughout the whole machine, and it's well oiled, and then you can start sewing. So now that we have the machine oiled, we're going to go ahead and install that LED light that's going to be in this accessory cabinet over here on the right. Just take it out of its bubble wrap, like so. And there's actually a plug on the back side of this motor on this machine, so you can just plug it into that. And I like to just leave my light on, so that way I know if my motor's on, my light's on, and that's the best indication that your machine's ready to go. Okay, and the LED light has a magnet on it, so you can just stick it to the back of the machine and drop it right there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down in the comment section down below. Make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe, because we post every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to learn how to use this machine, click in the description of this video. I'll link a video on winding the bobbin and threading the machine and getting started on that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great day.